Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the main event. You hear me, Daniel?
And Aaron.
On to the Wednesday fixtures. If you weren't watching the Tuesday fixtures, it's kind of weird that you're jumping straight here, but we are ourselves, so we won't judge you at all. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. We are the main event. We are at UCL Fantasy Pod on Twitter. You can jump on our profile, go onto our link tree, and it's got our socials there. By our socials, I mean the main events and mine. Aaron, do you want any socials on there? Do you want us to put your coach and stuff up?
At Aaron_Graydon on Twitter. But if you are looking for fitness tips, it's at Coach Graydon on Instagram and Facebook. So
I was saying, do you want us to put it on the link tree? Do you want? No? No, well then, I was trying to do you a favour. Not offer you anything ever again, mate. Sort of.
okay.
Let's jump into the early fixtures.
Ooh.
So, who have we got for the early fixtures on the Wednesday?
So we're going to start off with Group F. We've got Shakhtar versus Celtic. So Shakhtar sitting top of Group F currently, thanks to their wonder performance. They we definitely did write them off, didn't we?
Yeah.
I mean, they've not played as much. They've had they've had a really long, drawn out preseason. So it's not technically at home, but we'll see how that goes. Shakhtar, they won 2-1 yesterday. Shved and Arturetko were the goal scorers. Celtic, I don't think they played either, but yeah, I wasn't sure.
No, they didn't. Cooled
So
off.
we weren't able to kind of see what their team is. They got a little bit of a rest as well. But at this point, at kind of in the match day, early kickoff, we're kind of I think with this game, I don't think there's going to be many options that we have, but is there anyone that we should be paying attention to? That is the question, isn't it? Do you have anyone, Dan?
Yes. Again, I think it's just the two lads that did it in match day one, isn't it? I mean, is it Shved? Is that his name?
Fed?
Shved? Shved? Again, in the goals, in we had sort of like we couldn't really look at too many games. Had two games in the season, I think, before like when we were doing our previews.
Yeah.
But Mudriak again, they're both playing in midfield, or they're both midfielders on the game. I'm sure one of them's a forward, so they looked like they could get a lot of goals. They didn't have a very high XG for all the XG nerds out there, for the people that like underlying stats and stuff. They had a smaller XG than Leipzig, and they beat them 4-0. Was it 4-0 in the end? Yeah, it was 4-0, wasn't it? It was embarrassing, whatever it was. So I think that they're a team that are going to try and counter-attack. I think that plays right into their hands against Celtic, who've got a point to prove. I think they're going to go to Shakhtar and give them a good goal. They need to. I don't think Celtic expected to get much out of Real Madrid. Like they maybe expected could have got a draw. They could have. I mean, there could have been a couple of goals ahead in the first half, but I think that they'll go there expecting to get a result, and I think that could play to Shakhtar's strengths, just like it did with them against Leipzig. Well organised team, good quality, just quality in the final third. So for the prices, I think getting Shved or Mudrak as one, if not two, budget midfielders. If you're on a Limitless, then they become a lot less appealing because, I mean, to be fair, with a Limitless, it is a 1 week punt. So maybe you do still go for one of them. It's not getting the most out of your Limitless, though. So I understand why that's probably less appealing. But if you're on a wild card, who have Shakhtar got up next after this? So yeah, we've got Celtic, Real Madrid twice. So you probably want one of them, and I'll tell you why. If you're normal wild card, you probably want them to play against Real Madrid once when they play the Tuesday, and then you can limitless the next day, or you can just limitless anyway, and then there are 5 million transfer out to someone else. And yeah, Napoli have got an early fixture, so you can maybe go to Cavaradonna if he's playing, whatever. So I think there are plans to move him away, move him out. But again, when you get the match day 5 and 6, I think Shakhtar are a team that aren't going to be rotating because they're probably not going to have qualified by this point. I think they're going to be neck and neck with Leipzig. So I think they're a team that if you got one of those midfielders in and you got a Kvaradona or a Kudus or someone like that in there with them, so you had two attacking 5 million midfielders, 5.5 million midfielders, whatever they are, it allows you to go for your big boys up top and then a Mane, a De Bruyne, someone like that in midfield, and a Cancelo, someone. So yeah, I think they're really useful players for those not limitless and really useful.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
I was actually thinking of if you're wildcarding, or even if people went for or not using any chips and they went for the 4 million goalkeeping options. I do think that Joe Hart could potentially be a good option for a second goalkeeper who plays on the second day, 4.5, so you only need to get 0.5 from somewhere. And against Shakhtar, I think that you'll potentially get a couple save points because ultimately, if you're subbing your keeper, it means that the first one didn't keep a clean sheet. So if Joe Hart doesn't, it's not the end of the world. You didn't gain any. But I do think he'll make more saves. And just potentially for future games, I do think the amount of saves that Joe Hart will make, obviously Leipzig back-to-back. And when that's in Scotland, I think that it definitely has potential there. Just as a cheap goalkeeper, if you can get better goalkeepers, go for it. But it's more so for that if you're stuck, you can't move up from a 4 million keeper. You want all that budget in midfield to get as many premiums. I think Joe Hart is actually a realistic option.
Okay, interesting. I don't think I'll be going there personally, but option nonetheless. I think obviously the other two lads from Celtic looked really dangerous again against one of them. Sorry, is Shakhtar. I think he's
6.5 million.
Yeah, he could be a good pick for this game. I think. Obviously, the issue is I don't know how Celtic will be away compared to at home. I think they are going to be a better home team. But when you do get to that point, which is going to be match day 4 and match day 5, I believe. Match day 4 and 5, I think they've got the home games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think when that comes around, then you can maybe look at bringing in a Celtic player. So yeah, that one probably suits a Limitless this week to not have any of them, and then yeah, maybe going for them on a wild card from match day 3 or something like that, maybe. Yeah. Next game.
Yeah, so the other team, the other game in this group, Real Madrid versus Leipzig. Real Madrid with a very comfortable win today, actually. 4-1. Valverde, wonder goal. Vinicius Jr., wonder goal. Rodrigo, great goal. And Rudiger amongst the goals. So again, proving your point that he is better than Koulibaly, which I don't think many would disagree with at this point. Did you see any of the goals?
So Valverde's. I watched it again. I'm having terrible luck with games. As well, obviously, I watched the first half of the Barcelona game yesterday. I watched the first half of this game, 1-1. It wasn't plain sailing for Madrid at all. Really struggled with Hazard playing up front. He changed it in the second half and he moved to Valverde and Rodrigo up front. And Ancelotti even said in the game, in the press conference after the game, that it just wasn't working with Hazard. He can't play a false 9. He said he admired his qualities and stuff, and it wasn't his fault. It was the rest of the team. The rest of the team weren't doing the things around him that makes a false 9 effective. Mm-hmm. So they were just toothless. I mean, Valverde's goal was absolutely out of this world. And he's someone that we've been speaking about the last few times in the podcast. Like, yeah, we're really liking how he's looking. I think if you're going for Real Madrid players for this game, which you should do, obviously, against Leipzig, I think Valverde is your midfielder. You can play right wing, you can play centre mid. He might be playing up front with Rodrigo. If that's how it was going to be, if we've got an inkling of that's what it might be, then he just has to be in there. Maybe even with Rodrigo, such a punt. But I think you've got to go Vinicius Jr. on your Limitless 100% against Leipzig. It's just non-negotiable. Just absolutely non-negotiable. I think you should probably go for Vinicius Junior with whatever chip you go for, because after this they've got Shakhtar twice, Leipzig again, and Celtic for this time at home.
Yeah,
Vinicius Junior needs to be in your team regardless of what chip you're using.
I think there's not very many players in fantasy that you say is like a must-have. I think Vinicius, from this point moving forwards, fits that kind of category. I think he's cheap enough, and he's going to be playing a lot more attacking while Benzema is out injured. We don't know. I think it's the match after this, so Benzema might be back for the double header against Shakhtar, but I think Vinicius is a must-have at this point. Rodrigo, I think, is a midfielder in the game. I shall confirm, but I definitely agree with you in terms of Valverde, but also I had Tchouaméni last time. He was rested this week, but he got 6 ball recovery, got the clean sheet, but only played 70 minutes. So against Leipzig at home, he could potentially play again. I'm looking at him more as like a safe floor type of player, the same way that I used to view Fabinho and Casemiro. But do you think that's being too conservative? Should I try and go up to Valverde?
At this stage, I just don't think you should be conservative in the groups.
Yep.
I think there's so many good games with good teams or good players. Like we just named a couple of Shakhtar players that are dirt cheap playing in attacking positions. We have got some Milan players in midfield. If we're just looking at midfielders for argument's sake, we've just named Valverde and Vinicius Junior. Obviously, Vinicius is going to be one of your higher players. Valverde is sort of in the middle.
Modric was rested on the weekend. Modric is always an option.
Exactly. You've got Jota at Celtic, who's cheap but attacking. You've got Kvaradona at Napoli, 5.5. So I don't think that you need to be getting. If you want Tchouaméni because you think he can do something, that's absolutely fine, totally valid. Like with Casemiro, I'll be honest, it wasn't for his ball recoveries. His ball recoveries meant he had a good ceiling, but like he could score from set pieces. He was an absolute machine scoring headers from set pieces. So you have to get him in because at the worst, he's going to get you
5 or 6 points.
Yeah. Fair enough, at the worst, he's going to get sent off. But, I mean, barring that utter extreme, he's going to, even if the conceding only gets 2 points, he's finishing on 5 points for his ball recoveries. But then if they do keep the clean sheet, if he does score a header, and then for last season, although he didn't perform, when they brought in player of the match, you're just thinking he's got a few man of the matches in previous games in the groups. So if he gets another 3 points for that for 6 million. So that was the worth of that. I don't think Tchouaméni ever looks like he's going to score from a set piece. He's just not the target. So I don't think he's got anything other than a 5-pointer in him. Yeah. Whereas all that needs is a Jota assist or something, or a Mudryk or one of these types of players just literally get an assist and do nothing else. So I think I'd rather go for a higher risk, higher reward within the group stages because people are getting mental scores. Yeah. We've not even talked about our scores, actually. We probably should have. Actually, we did in the review, didn't we, I suppose?
Yeah.
What we
did in the live streams.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm 14.5K. I got 113 points. I can't be going for ball recovery.
No, players. Totally agree. So
they're playing Leipzig.
Yes, at home.
Yes, you need to talk about Leipzig. And Nkunku's not on my radar at the minute because he keeps on getting played on the right wing.
Yeah, so looking at Leipzig not doing... I think it's just, I don't know what's up with the Bundesliga at the minute. I mean, Dortmund and Munich are doing all right. Well, I say that.
I can't wait for you to I can't wait because I know what the scoreline was. So I just can't wait for you to say it with what you've just said. Come on, Aaron. Enlighten us.
So Dortmund were doing all right. This autocorrect, honestly. Leipzig 10th in Bundesliga. They beat Dortmund 3-0. Oh, lovely, 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 lovely.
So
The
there's no consistency whatsoever with any of them.
nah, Orban with another goal. Schlabersley on a 45th minute. He started, did he? Yes. And then Hadara with the last goal, clean sheet against Dortmund. Pretty good result.
Yeah.
Like what you said, Nkunku, it almost seems like now that Werner's back, Nkunku's ceiling has been hit massively, because it all is played through Werner now instead of Nkunku, which
Yeah.
I think is a mistake. I think Nkunku is a much better player,
Correct.
even if you get pre-Chelsea Werner. I think Nkunku is a better player.
The best version of Werner isn't as good as the best version of Nkunku.
Exactly. And so Forsberg was playing that 10. I would argue that Nkunku should be playing there.
Forsberg's the penalty taker as well when he's on the pitch.
Yeah. But Orban, I think that's his fourth or fifth goal this season.
No. I saw he got a goal, but I don't. Is this that many?
I'm going to have a look real quick, but he has been on the score sheet quite a few times. I'm not going to count the first round, even though that's probably where I saw it. It definitely no, it wasn't that many. I'm just being exaggerative, but it's definitely a few goals into the season now. I think that's his third goal. Yeah,
Second. I've got according to Transfer Market, it's his second goal this season.
Yes, his other goal was in a friendly, which is where
I like how we've got this down from 5 to 3 to 2.
To 3 to 2, and he's a must-have.
He is honestly, he's Beckenbauer reincarnate, mate. He's just getting in.
I don't even know how much he is, but I think against Real Madrid, it's not the best time to bring him in. Potentially,
awful time to bring him in.
I was going to say against Celtic.
How are we? In what reality have we gotten to this point, Aaron, where we're talking about Leipzig defenders? No,
I was going
to time. I can't. I told people to avoid them at all costs last week, let alone against Real friggin' Madrid away. What we're doing?
You cut me off, Dan.
Bunku knowledge and nothing more.
You cut me off for a wild card, even though you could legitimately be one of your transfers. A back-to-back against Celtic coming up, 4.5.
Yeah, I think that's
he has 5/3/2 goals. Orban could be a good option.
I think he's maybe we'll discuss him on a match day 3 preview. He's
perfect.
Not for this one. Dominic Szoboszlai, though, is back with a bang. He's got a goal and assist, didn't he? The weekend, and yeah, because he played centrally, I think. So yeah, I think I've said I think about 84 times there. I feel that if you were going to go for a Leipzig player, then maybe Big Sobbo's the one to go for. Back in business, back in the game.
Agreed.
Because he's a bit of a cult hero on this, isn't he?
Yeah, 100%. I think we spent a little bit too long Group F there. So let's move on to the other early game. AC Milan versus Dynamo Zagreb. This is definitely a target that a couple of people will be targeting, especially on Limitless. I think Theo Hernandez is probably going to be in a lot of people's teams. AC Milan, just while we're on them, they won 2-1 against Sampdoria. Leao was sent off the 47th minute. So I don't know, with the forward spots being so precious, I don't think we can get him in anyways. But Giroud scored a penalty, proving the fact that if Giroud is on the pitch, he will be the penalty taker. Theo will be second. And then Messias will be, he scored the other goal. This is already absolutely sold out San Siro. Dynamo Zagreb, shock result against Chelsea, but we'll touch on them in a little bit. In terms of AC Milan, Oh, we spent the whole time talking about Group F there. In terms of AC Milan players, I just wish Leao was a midfielder. Honestly, it hurts when other
Yeah,
wingers are classed as uh, midfielders and he's not. But De Ketelaere had a goal disallowed, which I don't know how it was disallowed.
yeah,
I don't know if
seen
you
it.
saw it.
Yeah, joke.
Um, but he's looking really, really good. 7.5. I think he's more of a limitless option than he is a wild card option. But AC Milan are going all out to win this game. And so, but unfortunately, I think other than Theo, I think everyone else is very, very punty. How do you feel about this?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there are. I think for a standard wild card, not interested really because we just don't know what Potter's going to do with Chelsea. If Tuchel was still in charge, then yeah, I think you'd go for a couple of Milan players on a limitless. I think you you have to go for Theo Hernandez. His ownership is going to be mental. I actually think you could probably go for two.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the only way you're going to get a jump on anyone else that's used the limitless chip
Yeah.
by getting two.
Yeah. In terms of ball recoveries, Tomori got 10 last game and Kalulu got 8. So they're both 5 million. Great options.
Both more.
Calabria, who is someone who you talked to me about in the preview, got 6. But he was obviously substituted off for Dest.
Yeah, I wouldn't go him, especially with
Who
Dest
still
coming in.
got 4. So I wouldn't pick the right backs, but Tomori with 10 and Kalulu with 8. The potential clean sheet is there. I think that's definitely who you need to double up on is just choose either Tomori or Kalulu. Both of them are good options, even though they both only got 4 points last game. But I think interestingly, Leao is 13% owned, which Theo, I mean, this will be higher once everyone's played the Limitless, but Theo was only 8. So Leao is quite a bit more owned. I think people need to be jumping to the premium forwards, especially with some of these matches, as we've discussed earlier and as we will discuss later in this episode. Would you agree with that? Anything? Don't think I'm missing
No,
anything else.
no, I agree.
Cool. With Dynamo Zagreb, obviously big result against Chelsea. They won 1-0 again with a last minute winner, Orsic.
Last minute it was like 10 minutes into the game. Oh, you mean at the weekend?
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you meant against Chelsea. Where you're like, I was like, what?
Oh
Yeah,
no,
no.
sorry. They won both of them 1-0 though. So the defense is clicking, but at a packed out San Siro, you're not really considering anyone, are you though? I think that's just too crazy.
I'd like to see nothing more than Orsic break Milan hearts.
Oh, especially in your double up on AC Milan.
Not for the win. Like I still want Milan to win. I just would love Zagreb to score and ruin so many clean sheets. It'd be delicious.
To be honest, it's not in the realm of impossible because Milan are very leaky at the minute.
Yeah.
To be honest, I would not double up, but if you are looking for that edge, definitely, yeah. It'll be an edge on everyone who has Theo Hernandez. With the other game in this group, a lot to talk about with Chelsea. They are currently at home against Salzburg, but we just don't know at this point. Rangers can play on Wednesday, but we just don't know about Chelsea at this point. I heard that it's only going to be Liverpool and Man City that'll affect, but Man City are away at Dortmund, aren't they? That's just what I read. So
Yeah. No, they're at home at Dortmund.
okay, so that's what I heard. I heard it's only going to be because of the route that the Queen has taken and policing. Liverpool and Man City will be affected. Chelsea will not. So I believe that, but that depends on whether they choose to go ahead with the match. Chelsea Salzburg, Graham Potter. I guess this is going to rely a little bit more on. I mean, it's a shame that they didn't play on the weekend because we got to see some kind of system. The fact that it's a Wednesday game, it's Graham Potter's first game, and they have Liverpool next weekend potentially. Is
Yes.
it? Do we just need to get Chelsea players out of our team? Do you think?
Stay away from them. Just stay away from them. I think the one. I think obviously, if you wanted one, you go for a fullback or a wing back. Sorry, you go for James or Chilwell, and that's it. And even then, I'm not fully convinced they want to keep a clean sheet against Salzburg. Salzburg are good going forward, and Potter's only going to have a week with them. But I mean, it depends on whether it's how bad that system is, or just how bad the players were feeling under Tuchel. If Graham Potter can just go in there and lift the mood, then you'd expect them to do a job. So I think the left back thing gets more difficult because he's obviously got a relationship with Cucurella. So does he favour him for that, or does he go, well, you left, so do you? Or does he just go with whoever he thinks he's the best? And then who do we think is the best between Chilwell and Cucurella? I personally think Chilwell.
Me too.
But what does Graham Potter think? He's the football manager. So I think if you wanted to be safe, you just go for Reece James and pray he does Reece James things. And by Reece James things, I mean an 18-pointer and not a 1-pointer.
Kind of what you said with Salzburg. I think a lot of us will have Chelsea players in our team, and that's going to be the struggle if we are limitless. And the fact that all these Chelsea players will come back. Yes, that'll give us more data. We'll be able to see Graham Potter's system, but the turnaround between match day 2 and 3 isn't actually that long. So, just something to consider. Salzburg.
I think if you're going to limit this, I think if people are limitless in 2, they are going to wildcard in 3. So I don't think it matters too much on that front. I think obviously in terms of price rises and price falls happen, don't they?
Yes.
So price falls as well. That's something that people need to be aware of. I think more so for the limitless for the wildcard match day 3. If you've got loads of Chelsea players, then they're going to be rising.
Yeah. So, with Salzburg, they won 3-0 yesterday. Sesko, Adamu, and Okafor were the goal scorers. Adamu got a red card though later in the match. Unfortunately, I mean, they I guess didn't come away with the win against AC Milan from their point of view. But Okafor again on the score sheet, is he someone who we need to look at?
Expensive, isn't he? How much is he? 7 million or something? 7.5.
I'm about to have a look, but he's got the form there. He is 7.5 million midfielder.
Too much. If he was 5.5, 6. Because what was he? He was only. What was he last season? I'm sure he was like a 4.5, 5 million midfielder.
He was.
Yeah. Like the jump. That's such 3 million jump.
The only reason I was thinking about like suggesting him, obviously he's got the form, but the back-to-back matches against Dynamo Zagreb coming up, is he a better option than Gonçalves? But that's something that we'll look at next match day preview. We'll see how they do with that. But cool. So I think this is a good time to talk about the game that was moved. It's going to be Rangers versus Napoli. So a bit frustrating that this was moved, to be honest. Obviously, the circumstances, not really Rangers to control, but I think there were a lot of good options that we could have used in the Tuesday game. The Rangers obviously didn't play, but Napoli won 1-0 with an 89th minute winner by Raspadori, their new signing. And another clean sheet. So, in terms of this game, though, with how well Napoli, I guess, controlled Liverpool, I'm looking to get Napoli assets in probably a bit less than what I was if it was on a Tuesday, but Cravadonna, I guess he's absolutely solid, especially if you're limitless or if you're just doing
Just doing anything.
Card. I think he's just unreal, isn't he? But someone from a wild card point of view that I'm looking at, especially to get Wrench out, is Kim. From a ball recovery point of view, attacking point of view, just everything. He's 4.5, and he got 3 points, just a comfortable 3 ball recoveries. I think that just shows how toothless, I guess, Liverpool were. But in terms of ball recoveries, the two fullbacks, Di Lorenzo with 12 ball recovery points, not points, 12 ball recoveries, and Romani, 10 ball recoveries. Rangers do play a lot down the wings. So Kim was someone I was looking at. But is this somewhere we could look at for defenders, potentially a double up, especially when people are going to be looking for premiums? I think yes, but what are your thoughts, Dan?
Yeah, on a Limitless, yeah.
Just
on a normal
general,
wild card.
In general.
Not in a normal wild card, not defense, because they've got the next 2 games against Ajax.
Mm.
And I think Ajax will score past them. So that's a no from me. In terms of Limitless, obviously the value doesn't inspire confidence with like how much they cost. People obviously want more expensive defenders. But yeah, I definitely think you could go for a double up there. In terms of like Kvaradona and stuff, yeah. Or Zielinski, we need to talk about Zielinski. If I was limitless wildcarding this week, I'd have Zielinski in, not Kvaradona. He's on pens. He looks dangerous.
Yes.
He goals, assists. I think he's their best playmaker. There is just no doubt. He's also more expensive, so you get more bang for your buck on Limitless. I'd be going for him, not Kvaradona, personally.
Yeah. Kvaradona does keep getting substituted off. He was substituted off 58 or 59 minutes this last game. But still managed to get, the 1 ball recovery, set up a goal, and the assist, which was absolutely fantastic. So Zielinski was rested for this game, but when he came on, again, was the most dangerous player, and he didn't get the assist, but he got the assist for the assist. Which obviously does not count in fantasy points, but it just shows how dangerous he is. And obviously being the pen taker, the ceiling is a lot higher for him. But we need to look at kind of Rangers' home form. This is going to be their first Champions League match at Ibrox. I did predict that Napoli would lose this game originally when the group draw. Not quite, because of the circumstances. I've read that there's no Napoli fans allowed in this match, so it's going to be 100% Rangers fans. And we know the miracles that Rangers did at home in Europe, and that is what is tough for me. I know I've just completely contradicted myself saying, "Oh, Napoli defenders, great."
Double up on Napoli defense.
And then I think it's just the Martin Keown effect. Just I'm right both ways.
You want to clip up whatever turns out to be correct, and then pretend that it's a fantasy football guru.
Yeah, and then just post only them clips on Twitter. So Napoli should win comfortably, but with Rangers at home, there's such an X factor there, and they're really, really hard to predict. But are you looking at anyone from this game other than Zielinski?
Kvaradona or Zielinski for me, no one else, because I do think Rangers will score. Yeah. I think obviously if you're going on Limitless and if you're on Limitless and you think, right, I think Rangers at home, no Napoli fans, go Tavernier or Tavernier, however you want to pronounce his name. I thought it was Tavernier personally.
It sounds fancier that way.
I think it is Tavernier. When he played for Newcastle, we used to call him Tavernier. So, not that Newcastle fans have a history of pronouncing players' names correctly. David Ginola. So, yeah, I reckon if you were to go for someone from Rangers, you'd probably go for him. I don't know. The issue is I mean, you're not going to get any Rangers forwards on a Limitless, and you're not going to want Rangers players for the long term. You're not going to bring any in on a wild card because after Napoli, they've just got a double against Liverpool, and then Napoli away, and then Ajax again, and fans will be allowed back in. So it's just such a short-term pick. So if you are going to limit this, you could get them. But I think for the value, Tavernier is the only one that's like, oh yeah, I'll go for him because he's 6 million or whatever daft price they've given him if he's on pens. It's him or bust for me personally if you're going for a limitless wild card on Rangers.
Yeah. Totally agree, and I don't think anything else needs to be said on that other than I do think that Napoli will win, I think Rangers will win, and I think it'll finish as a draw. So I'm right on both, on all accounts.
On both accounts, for all three scores.
Yes.
Aaron can count.
I mean, I said someone had 82 goals before. You can just tell as the Labour gets closer. Yeah, it's going.
Is that what it is? Mate, I'm dying for episode 8 of Cobra Kai. It's just getting to me.
Oh man. So finishing off with these last few groups. So I guess the next match that we should talk about, Man City against Dortmund.
Ooh.
Haaland against his old team. Haaland having a rest as well this weekend. What more do we want? He has to be in your team.
If you don't have him in your team, then I think you should seek professional help.
Even more reason for me not to have him.
My captain game day 1 blanks. He's my captain for the Wednesday night. 100%.
Yeah. Other good Man City picks, obviously Cancelo having an unreal performance, showing that he is the most expensive defender for a reason.
Yeah.
Limitless, De Bruyne has to be in there, surely.
Yeah. If you're on a Limitless, it's De Bruyne, Haaland, and Cancelo.
It has to be.
You are riding high. Put the 3 in your team, and then whoever else you want in, crack on. Dortmund at home. So obviously Man City playing at home, Dortmund are away. Oh, it could be a total bloodbath. A total bloodbath.
100%. Don't think there's anyone else really a highlight. I think after that, you're just trying to be Maverick. Just chase the points, kind of what you were saying.
Stay away from Dortmund's players.
Just
stay away from them. Is there who they've got? I mean, they've got the thing is, right, this is where Limitless, I think, works better. So obviously, I think some of the advice we've given maybe seems a little bit heavy on wildcarding. I think this is definitely a Limitless pick because if you wildcard next time, you can bring in your Man City assets, wildcard anyway, because if you don't have any Dortmund, you're going to want them for match day 3 and 4 against Sevilla with the way they're playing. Guerrero 4.5 million, Royce at 7.5, or Julian Brandt at 7. So, but then obviously on the backside, of that, if you're getting them Dortmund players in on a wild card, it's for 2 games because the match day 5 is not Man City again. Now, it doesn't matter if the home or away. Like, it's what's going to be Jude Bellingham versus Man City. That's effectively how I feel it's going to be.
Yeah.
Royce didn't play great at the weekend. Jude Bellingham is their best player. And he was their best player when Man City played them in the knockouts. I think it was the knockouts a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Borussia Dortmund aren't great for chips because they've got Man City, then the double Sevilla, then Man City, then Copenhagen. So you kind of want to get on and off them.
Yeah.
If you wild card them in, then you got them for 2 games. Then you're going to have to get them out and then maybe get them in again for match day 6. So I do think that there could be a good team to have for match day 6 if you were going to Limitless in match day 6, because I don't think they'll be through yet.
Yeah. In terms of that, I don't think there's anyone else to really highlight from that. I understand we're kind of flying through these now. I guess the other game in this group, Copenhagen, Sevilla. Sevilla are just too unpredictable for me to be able to trust anyone on a Wednesday game. Copenhagen, again, there's not really anyone to highlight, unfortunately. I don't mean to like totally skip past this game, but in terms of Limitless, Wildcard, or even just transfers, I think this game's just too risky. You don't know what way it's going to go. Have you skipped through this one?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So there's just the last group. I guess the next one, Paris Saint-Germain away to Maccabi Haifa.
Woo!
So Mbappe, Neymar, Messi, probably in that order of who you should get in on your Limitless. Even
Yeah.
just your normal transfers as well. Lewandowski to one of these potentially as well. Neymar scoring on the weekend, Messi assist, which was unbelievable. If you haven't seen it, you watched
Mbappe
this
playing
game. You watched this game and said Mbappe was horrible.
dog shit.
Yeah,
Actual dog shit. He missed one of the worst sitters I've seen. Like run through and he's one on one with the keeper, and he's trying to back heel it. Like he hasn't tried to back heel. He's just trying to hit it in the bottom corner. It came off the back of his heel and bobbled about 5 yards wide. It was hilariously bad. I think on like Sofa score and all that sort of stuff, his ratings were like a 2. He was shocking. Neymar and Messi were great. But for the benefit of this game, you have to get Mbappe in because he's going to rise. He'll be on a price rise. If you don't already have them and you're not limitless in, you have to get him because he, like I say, he'll be the one to go up. So then you've got a straight shootout between Neymar and Messi. I think you probably go Neymar again to stay at the 0.5. I think they're much of a muchness at the minute. Although Neymar's getting more output, so I still think it's probably the smarter thing to do. Obviously, Messi can do whatever Messi wants in certain games. He did miss a couple of chances, Messi. I think his finishing wasn't at his peak levels. So you make of that what you will. For me, it's a very simple case of this game. You go for triple PSG. You go for the 2 forwards. In my opinion, they are Mbappe and Neymar, regardless of what you're using. And you go for one of their wing backs, whether that be Mendes or Hakimi. And I think you'd be fine. Just do that. They've got Benfica in the next 2 games and then Maccabi Haifa again. I think they're good for all of those games.
Yeah.
And if you want, you can move Mendes or it obviously depends on your price point, but you can move one of them on to someone else. If you go on Limitless, I'd probably just go Hakimi to be safe and beat the ownership.
Yeah.
Unless you've got a really good feeling about Mendes. I think Mendes got booked at the weekend when he played.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd try my best to go Hakimi, and if your team's not looking right for the extra, I can't remember how much difference there is in cash between them, but if you're struggling for the money, then obviously you can go down to Mendes, and I don't think you'd be too upset by it.
Yeah. In terms of anyone else from Paris Saint-Germain, probably not really. You do want as many attackers as you can, and obviously the wing backs like you've just mentioned. Maccabi Haifa, not even
move on. They've been Plezeniad.
The last game, Juventus versus Benfica. Juventus are playing right now at the time of recording and are losing 2-1. Not great. So their team, obviously, Juventus Allegri is under a lot of pressure. People are not liking the way that they're playing. And he came out in an interview today and said that I'd rather win the way that we're playing than lose beautifully. Which is interesting because they're not even winning. So at the minute they're just losing ugly.
In no sense. That doesn't make any sense.
So he'd rather play boring defensive football and win than lose playing beautiful attacking football.
But they're not winning.
Yeah, exactly. They're not winning. Sitting 9th in Syria, which could be lower. It's just not great. It's not great. And to be honest, I prefer Benfica in this match. So Bremer, who won the Defender of the Year last year in Serie A, was bought over from Torino. He scored the goal. But other than that, there's just a lot of rotation. Obviously, Kostic being a defender in the game, but playing as left wing might be an option for those people who are looking for it. but I don't think it's going really well, and you probably get them in later when they're against Maccabi Haifa.
Yeah.
Vlahovic did great for a few games, but he seems to be a very streaky striker where he'll score.
Not giving him chances either. He's been scoring free kicks.
Yeah,
not creating anything for him.
But I'll look at the stats right now. They've had 63% possession. They've had 12 shots, but only 4 on target, compared to Salernitana. That was horrific pronunciation. Yeah. They've only had 37% possession, but they've equaled the shot accuracy, 7 shots, 3 on target. It's just not looking good for Juventus at the minute.
No. So just let's move on to Benfica. We'll just not sod them.
Agreed. So Benfica, Grimaldo, hero of the moment. Otamendi, also a great option. Looks like I think you can keep them, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
And then for anyone else for Benfica, I was looking at the keeper for second day goalkeeper, but that's a double up for Benfica. Knowing that they're going to be against Paris Saint-Germain twice in a row, should I look to move them out or should I keep them?
I think you. I think if you're going to have a Benfica player,
has to be Otamendi because he's cheaper.
I think, yeah. It depends. What do you think?
Grimaldo's the same price as the goalkeeper, so even any of them really, isn't it?
You're not going to go for the goalkeeper in a month Sundays. You need to go for Grimaldo because you think he's going to score again, or Otamendi for his ball recoveries and maybe set piece.
Grimaldo's price rise incoming as well, so that's obviously an option to think about.
True. As well. That is true. I think if you can afford Grimaldo, you probably do it. But yeah, the fixtures against PSG twice and then Juventus again. To be fair, I'm not really too bothered about the Juventus game. It's the PSG games are not fun.
Yeah.
At all to have a Benfica defender.
That'll be a painful watch.
It could make it difficult for them. I don't think they'll get smashed.
Yeah. And so other than them, I don't think there's many other options. I just do think the defenders are the best options for Benfica. So that concludes all the kind of matches, but I guess the biggest question, we've referred to it throughout the whole episode, the last 2 episodes, do we limitless or do we wildcard? And Dan, you said you were looking into this in a bit more research, a bit more detail. Let us know what you found.
Honestly, there is no right or wrong answer. I've seen so many opinions on how blatant it is on one way or the other. And I just don't think people are looking open-mindedly enough because from what I'm seeing, it is not clear at all. So I think the best thing to do is to go through sort of the pros and cons of each one. So I think Limitless Matchday 2 and then a Wildcard Matchday 3 is the most popular that I've seen. Let's talk about it. Obviously, the benefits of that, if we look at it, you'll be able to triple up on Man City against Dortmund. However, if you wanted to for a Limitless and Matchday 3 or 4 or 5, you can also do the same, or 6. So I actually think the Man City game doesn't matter because it honestly doesn't matter. If anything, this is the 1 week where I think we might know the team because they've had a rest. So I actually don't think that you need the Limitless for it. Whereas Copenhagen and Matchday 4, we will see the early team news. So then if we look at early fixtures, so again, from a Limitless perspective, we're looking at Inter versus Victoria Plzeňa. We'll discuss this for the Tuesday games. What players warrant a Limitless on that? Dumfries and Gosens, maybe. Do you go for one of the midfielders? You're not going for one of the forwards. And if we look at those Tuesday games, so obviously we want to be targeting Tuesday games as much as possible with what we know. With that Limitless, we've got, if we just look at the favourites or teams that we actually want to pick from, Inter, do they have many expensive players that you want? And I'm ruling out forwards because you are 100% going for the PSGs, Haaland, and Lever. They are it. Tottenham versus Sporting, so you might go for Kane, okay, fair enough, but then you go for Son, not really in great form. Richarlison's a forward, and then you're dropping into 7.5. So your best bet there is going to be you've got Chalvez at 7.5, Edwards at 7.5, and Perisic at 6.5. So great. Perisic is your perfect Limitless. Ajax v Liverpool, which Liverpool's turning up. And so you're going to go Salah. Great. Okay, fair enough. And then Ajax players don't warrant Limitlesses, really. But then again, that's probably okay because we're away to Liverpool. So that's probably a good thing. That's an extra point towards Limitless, and maybe. Bayern v Barca. No idea what way that's going to go. I'd probably give the edge to Bayern and maybe say they'd win 2-1 as a guess because they're at home.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to go for Sané and Mane. I don't think you'd triple. And then again for Barcelona, you maybe use Dembele. So, okay. But is that a fixture? You've got a Limitless. You can Limitless for Bayern versus Plzeňa or Barca versus Plzeňa again. Is the time to Limitless this fixture out of all of them? Possibly not. Porto v Bruges, not a single player worthy of Limitless. Marseille versus Frankfurt, not a single player worthy of a Limitless. Leverkusen versus Atletico Madrid, not a single player worthy of a Limitless. So for Tuesday, we are struggling for players. Really, really struggling. Which is kind of why I don't like it, basically. But there are some really nice fixtures on the Wednesday. Obviously, we talk about the Man City thing. I still don't think there's that much of an edge to be gained. You are going to want more safe players, okay. Milan versus Zagreb, Wednesday game, but they are leaky. Theo Hernandez is the premium pick. So is that the best game you're going to get out of them? Potentially. If you want to go for that route. And you mentioned De Ketelaere. Okay, but I feel like that's a Tuesday pick. I feel like these are Tuesday picks, not Wednesday picks. Napoli versus Rangers, Zielinski and Kvaradona are the players that were mentioned. And you said Kim for a combined fee of 17 or 18 million or something. Again, are they wildcard players? Limitless wildcard players? Porto v Bruges, we've already mentioned that. PSG versus Maccabi Haifa. This is what a lot of people have talked about. But PSG for Benfica for the next few games, what can your two premium PSG forwards not score against Benfica in the next game? You can score against anyone, the best forwards in the world. So you definitely want some PSG players. Just going through here, who else has got good fixture? Real Madrid, great fixture against Leipzig. No Benzema. So the major player to want on a Limitless wildcard isn't fit. And they are probably going to play with Rodrigo and Valverde up front. And then obviously you've got Vinny at 10. But we're all talking about these players like Mudrak and is it Shred? Was that his name? And Kvaradona and these 5.5 minutes. Kudus. So are you going to go for Kudus on a wild card against Liverpool away? Probably on a Limitless. Probably not, but he works on a normal wild card because of his price. Get the rise. And then that way you can afford your premiums anyway. Shakhtar versus Celtic. That's there's no premiums that I'm desperate to have this week that I can't have another week. For me personally, that is just me personally, when I look at it. There are a couple of times when I think, ooh, that actually works out really, really nicely. If I just have a little look down the list. So I think we talked about Borussia Dortmund, for example. If you wanted some Dortmund players, Limitless in this week, then you got on a wild card, have them for the two Sevilla games, and you can transfer them out for Man City. And if you want to get them back in for Copenhagen, obviously you can do. Or, I mean, they're going to be playing on the Wednesday against Man City, so that's not great even for punts. So yeah, I just think when you look at who you can have on a Limitless, I think there are some good fixtures, but the prices aren't right. Whereas if you use a wildcard, you could get in Atletico Madrid players on the cheap. We've agreed one defender, 4.5 million for Leverkusen, Bruges, Leverkusen. You could then get in your triple Man City, go as premium as you bloody well like. Maybe don't go De Bruyne and go for Phil Foden to save some money in midfield, but you definitely want Haaland and Cancelo. And then you've got them for Dortmund, Copenhagen, Dortmund, Sevilla. You've got them. You're already done and dusted. Now, again, I think you're probably in an even boat with Limitless and a wildcard, because whenever you do wildcard in 3, you're probably going to bring in 3 Man City players anyway. Copenhagen twice, Dortmund and Sevilla. But would you not prefer to Limitless while they play Copenhagen, not Dortmund? Is that would people not prefer to do that? Have De Bruyne for that game? Also, we get early team news in Matchday 4 for Man City, which I think could really, really help. You've then got, if we look at other teams, so Marseille, I don't think I'd ever really want them in on a Limitless, but they've got Frankfurt, so you could bring them in for that. Sporting at home, in for that. If you want to, Limitless Matchday 4 actually looks really good, because then you can get them out for Sporting away, and then they're back in for Eintracht Frankfurt again. You have to sort them out maybe for Tottenham, but Tottenham didn't look great until they got sent down to 10 men. Bemba can't play this time, at least against Frankfurt. Porto, cheap players. They've got Bruges, Leverkusen, Bruges. So for me, when I'm looking at how to get cheap players and then work in the more expensive ones, it's just looking like get in the players that you want straight away. Real Madrid, you can triple Real Madrid, Leipzig, Shakhtar, Leipzig, Celtic. And then would you not prefer to Limitless for maybe one of the Shakhtar games? Maybe the other Leipzig game. Maybe Celtic Matchday 6 at home. We will know team news for that, although it is a Wednesday game, so not ideal. But also, would you not prefer to Limitless on one of those weeks when Karim Benzema's back?
Yeah.
And then if you went for that PSG forward, Haifa, then Benfica twice, then Haifa again, then Juve, they can score on all of them. You maybe don't want the defenders so much, but I mean, they still do okay. But then for one of those Benfica games, so Benfica away, for example, Limitless wildcard, bring them out, put Benzema in. And then you're also going to get, because at the minute, I mean, you're probably going to want, what, one buy-in player? How many buy-in players do people have for match day 1? Because that's what you're going to get. Then you're going to bring in, on match day 3, you get to bring in, obviously, 3 buy-in players. And we'll have the early team news for match day 3 against Plzeň, which is great. But if you wildcard in match day 4, when we don't know the team news, that might work. You might be able to wildcard in 3 when we do know the team news, because you can get all of them. You get Mane, Sané, if Coleman's fit again. You can get the 3 most expensive players where other people are going to have to downgrade, maybe go to Musiala, maybe Musiala doesn't play. You might do, to be fair, be happy having Musiala if he did play. Whereas, so I think for something like that, you maybe just need to think about Bayern Munich if you were going to wildcard, because against Barcelona, you maybe don't want loads of them. So for match day 3 or 4, you're going to have to plan a transfer to get more in. So that potentially does favour a Limitless. I think if you're looking for buying players, it favours the Limitless. But I think buying are the team that people are looking at, going, I think Limitless is better because of X, Y, and Z. I think that's the team where the focus, the mind on. They're going buying against Plzeň, so I'm getting all my points from. It doesn't always work that way. And and it is a team. It's how well does your 11 players do, or your 15 when you're focusing on subs and stuff. Again, Juventus. I think that's a team that maybe people are looking at in terms of, well, do I want to bring anyone in now on a wild card? Absolutely not. But when you've got the early kickoff for Haifa, or maybe when they're at home to Haifa, you might want Vlahovic in on a Limitless, or you might want one of their expensive players if they've got any for that fixture. And people will argue, but Daniel, I'd rather have the expensive players for PSG against Haifa. Yeah, but you're probably going to have them in anyway. Like, you don't want Juventus players ever. So I think I just think some of the big players that will have anyway, or can have around a good team, and the fixtures are more suitable to Limitless. I've had a look at sort of like green fixtures, and if I count them up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11 in Matchday 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 in Matchday 3. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in Matchday 4. So there's not that much difference, in my opinion. And I've worked that out based on home and away advantages, stuff like that. I value people's opinions when they say they want to Limitless in 2. I don't disagree with them. I think there are gains to be made. For me, it devalues the wild card because Matchday 2 to 5 are pretty much the same games. I appreciate there is home and away difference. Things can change. But when I look at the major upsides of the Limitless in 2, I am looking at Man City in 2, and then being able to wildcard in 3 to get in Bayern Munich for a double. Yeah. They're the two major. Oh, and then obviously we've got Real Madrid v Leipzig, PSG v Maccabi Haifa. They're the upsides. Whereas I think Man City Limitless in against Copenhagen is better than that. Who else we got for the other game? Real Madrid against Shakhtar is better than Leipzig. Now, especially now that we've got a new coach, it's so up in the air. And then obviously Bayern versus Plzeň on a Limitless is better than Limitless in against Barcelona.
True.
So it's entirely everyone's opinion. It's totally up to each individual what they want to do. I personally enjoy the idea of wildcarding in 2 and having the flexibility to Limitless in 3 or 4 based on the information that I have. Mm-hmm. For me personally. The other thing, like we were saying previously, are price jumps. If you already have a player, so we already talked about Lewis having Kudus. If you have him, mint. You can Limitless and you're still going to get that rise on him. If you've got Haaland and he rises, got Mbappe already and he rises, great. I don't have Haaland or Mbappe or Kudus. So I would like those players for this week, but also I don't want to be priced out of them. So it is absolutely massive on your individual game. If you're one of the top point scorers already in the game, it means that your players have done well. You can limit this in 2 with a lot less fear. If you've got under 100, you probably don't have a lot of great players. So, like Aaron, how many players in your team do you think is going to price rise for you?
Lewandowski.
Yep.
Yep.
So you can gain an edge straight away by piggybacking off other people's success and maybe bank. Honestly, on this game, you can bank in Matchday. The Matchday 2 rises, you can bank over $1 million like that. So easy to. So
especially after this Matchday.
Yeah, like the amount that's the thing. It wasn't a normal Matchday. People are getting insane scores. I think the world number one's got 140 odd. People in our leagues have got 136 or something. Like, it's crazy. So there are so many players getting high points, and you need to be on them. Like, I don't have Grimaldo. I took Otamendi instead. So maybe I want to try and bring in Otamendi just to get his price rise. And then might have a team value of 103 million, so that when it comes to future transfers, I can then manipulate those. Obviously, use my Limitless in one of the weeks, but if I need to just get that extra player in, I can drop down from someone else that I've got to get in there. I think you can turn some of these 5.5 million midfielders into 6 million midfielders. Do that for 2 or 3 of them. Then you're bagging yourself that extra mid-price midfielder, or maybe going up 2-3 premiums up front when you've already got a premium in midfield. Like, those are the things you can do. So what are you thinking?
You convinced me on the review to like how much I could fall behind if I don't wildcard now, because I was always kind of saying that my wildcard is to get out of a sticky situation, and you were like, well, looking at everyone else's rank, are you not in that now? So I was having a look, and yeah, so I was leaning towards I was kind of always going to do the Limitless in Matchday 3. With that in mind, though, I don't know. I think I do definitely need to wildcard it. If I don't wildcard, the only way I can get a semi-decent team is if I take a hit already. And a hit is massive. I mean, I'm already behind in the ranks because everyone else has done so well. It's just the whole you want to avoid taking the hits in this game.
Yeah. Obviously, one thing is for you, just with that in mind, I had a bang average matchday 1 score last year. They got like 64 points, and everyone was getting mid-80s, low 90s. And I played my wildcard match 2, and that's not to say it's going to happen the same again. But just by consistently getting 80s, I got like 85, 87, 86 or something, and then hit that massive score. If you can just do that, just consistently hit and then maybe get lucky once. Like I said, I was in the 70s or something, or 50s in the world. Can't remember what it was. But obviously in the top 100.
Yeah.
From consistency. So I wouldn't worry about being too far behind. I just think it's a case of don't stay there.
I mean, someone could be on 101, someone could be on 102, and there could be like a 20k difference.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it's just more so having a decent team for this match day. I definitely need to consider a chip. So I'm considering just the normal wild card for now, get all the price rises, because if I'm not using my wild card in the knockout stages, I need as much money as I can.
Exactly. And that's the thing. And obviously, I think I made mistakes last year in the knockouts anyway, but they were rudimentary mistakes, like picking 2 goalkeepers from the same side of the draw, not getting that sorted out straight away. So they end up playing against each other in the semis and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think you're making the right decision. Whether it's the Limitless or the regular wildcard, that's entirely your decision and everyone else's individual decision. I'm not here to tell anyone what to do. I'll be on a Spaces with Lewis on Monday night to discuss all this, and I think he's pretty set on a Limitless in 2. So we have 2 very, very different approaches, and it's definitely going to be worthwhile. I've not pressed any buttons yet, but no intention of pressing them until Tuesday. I'll maybe have a play around in bed or something tonight and tomorrow, but I'm certainly
play around with your team.
Yeah, yes, a play around with my play around with my team. Yes, Aaron, nothing else. Totally thrown me off. How dare you? God's watching, Aaron. Totally lost what I was going to say. Oh yeah, but I'm very open to listening to Lewis. I've got a massive amount of respect for how he plays the game, his ranks, the amount of research he puts in. So whatever he says is going to be of huge value to me. And maybe there's just something I'm not seeing with what I've done, maybe the way that my mind works. So I'm going to be listening to him and not just resting on anything that I've done at all. And I'd recommend everyone else do the same. And that's the same as if you are planning on Limitless and maybe listen to the other points of view.
Yeah.
Not to confuse you, but just to maybe you hadn't thought of something, you go, you know what? I'm still going to do what I thought, but now I can think of contingency plans for the weeks ahead and things like that. Hopefully we'll all work together, and there's no right or wrong way to play the game. It's just whatever it is you fancy.
I think that's where the strength of the community lies. So I guess just to kind of wrap it up, make sure you follow us on Twitter. Make sure you follow Lewis at FPL Reaction. There's a lot of really, really good UCL players. Follow them all, connect with all of us. That's where kind of the fun of this game comes. I think it's a little, well, I wouldn't even say it's a little, it's a lot less competitive than FPL. People don't take their ranks as personally. I think that's where the strength of this game is where you have a lot more fun with it, because the potential of high scores are there. And if you have a bad game week, or if I say, oh, I'm actually going to captain Tomori, and he ends up banging, I'm not going to absolutely not going to talk about it as if I'm like God's gift to everyone, like some of these other FPL accounts do. And if you think I'm talking about you, it's probably because I am. Not you, Dan.
I was going to say, if anyone's seen my FPL content, they know that I do
not you, Dan.
I've got nothing to brag about. If I did, I definitely would. I'd be that person. But it's just nothing but a shambles from me.
Obviously, I didn't mean you, Dan. But we all know the FPL beef that goes on. But the community part of this game is absolutely massive. Make sure to connect with us all on Twitter. And make sure to check out the next episode where we actually talk about the Content Creators Champions League.
Yes.
And then follow all these guys on Twitter, because the amount of content that they put out is going to help your game, especially more than my advice. So yeah, definitely make sure to do that.
Lovely. And on that lovely, awe-inspiring message from Aaron Graydon, we'll wish you all a lovely day, and we'll see you for the next one where we discuss our main event, Champions League. Tune in for it, because there are some mental scores. Spoiler, the average score for the league of 32 players was like 102 points. And bear in mind, one person, I think, got 48 points. So that is how high some of the scores were. So if you want to check us out for that one, please do. And then obviously we'll give you the names of everyone that you can give a cheeky follow to and steal all of their teams, like everyone has been, especially all you that nicked Lewis's team. Hope you're so proud of yourselves. We'll see you next time. Have a good one. Bye.